And we're live. Back again. Trauma guys.
Moxley!
I'm Lee.
I haven't worn this shirt in a while.
And
I'm Fayaz.
And welcome back, guys. Today we're going to do, I know we do a lot of wrestling content. We are wrestling fans.
Trauma guys, if you forgot who we are.
Again, guys, if you like what we're talking about, please do subscribe, click the like button, hit that notification button so when we have new content out, you can be one of the first ones to check it out. All right. So today we're going to talk about a documentary called The Trade. So The Trade is basically about a guy who was a wrestler named Sick Nick Mondo, and he was part of CZW.
Sick Nick, baby.
Yeah, and he kind of earned his name and every bit of what he did.
Yeah, that guy was every bit of sick.
Yes, very much so.
Every bit of sick, and it's if you guys haven't seen this one, it's really pretty good. It almost starts off the same way any kind of wrestling documentary would, and it kind of gives you an idea and insight to the person and how he grew up as a kid and things like that. But then it kind of takes a darker turn, and he kind of talks about how it's almost like an alter ego. Like he gets more into his character than he does actually being who he is. And it's almost like it's two different people for him. So I thought, when he started to take that turn with it, and what's that? Technical difficulties?
Yeah, a little technical difficulties there. Sorry about that. Go ahead with what you were talking about.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, so then it actually takes a turn as to, it goes over his wrestling career, but then it talks a lot about him walking away from it and why he walked away from it. Now, anybody can see that, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't really get detailed into why he walked away from it. Some of it had to be due to the fact that he just knew he was destroying his body. Yeah. And he couldn't. He was going through something mentally, and destroying himself that way, was part putting on a show and kind of therapeutic to him. It seemed like.
Yeah.
And finally, it's like he found a way to, not use that as therapy anymore, because I think it became more about that than it did about putting on the show after a while. Yeah, I don't know. What's your take on that one?
Well, I felt like he had a hard time separating who he really is.
Yeah.
The Matthew Burns from Sick Nick Mondo. I don't think he knew how to separate them, and he became pretty much, that was Sick Nick Mondo pretty much all the time. But even when they talked about his parents said when he was younger, when he got in high school, where he just started just doing all this crazy stuff. I mean, they were putting on pranks and it just got worse, And it was probably a lot during the Jackass era where he decided, but they stepped it up. And he said before backyard wrestling, him and his friends would do what they call ninja fighting in the backyard. But they were going overboard, seriously overboard.
Yeah, they were getting kind of crazy. So it was almost like he was grooming himself for it, and he kind of enjoyed, he enjoyed that. Now, you look at that and go, well, that's kind of a non-productive way to therapeutically take care of yourself. But there's probably worse non-productive ways he could have done it, right? Yeah. I think. Obviously, it took a toll on him over time, but I don't think he ever talked about drug abuse or anything like that, from what I remember. So, I mean, it could have went, a horrifically different way, but his life didn't. Now, the cool thing is about this guy is, if you watch him wrestle and you watch some of his clips, and we were talking about this earlier, that his ability to actually wrestle and be athletic and do a lot of the things, wasn't completely hidden by the fact that it was, death matches and falling through tables and hitting each other with glass balls. Like, he was really talented. He could have done it either way. Even if he didn't do, CZW style wrestling, he could have. I think he could have gone, an indie circuit and he could have been, yeah, he could have done it any way he wanted to go. He just chose to do it that way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He had the talent, he had the skill, he had the charisma. He already brought the crowd over to him, and even though he started in one place, and when they originally he was doing, he lived in Pennsylvania, and he was doing some stuff in a few other places, and when CZW had him out, they would fly him to where he was. They would fly him from where he lived, because he was such a big draw that people loved to see him.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of. But once he had the taste of that first one with the Messiah, now the Messiah was this dude from California who would fly in and do stuff with CZW too, and he was known as the Messiah. I remember kind of some stories about that guy. I think somebody broke into his house one time. I think he was kind of into some other stuff. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, people. But he lost his thumb.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Wow.
And he still came and wrestled that week against Sick Nick.
After losing his thumb?
And he had it taped up, and he didn't have a thumb.
Oh, wow.
So that's
crazy.
kind of but some of that stuff is stuff that these guys...
That kind of speaks to like some of how those guys think mentally, right? Because especially the guys who are just driven to that style of it and they're not going to do anything else.
Yeah. Now this is something that I know we both agree on. Look, we get there's a spot for this stuff, and it's interesting to watch and to talk about. Now, to us, we really don't find it as, like, I don't think I could watch a whole night of just death matches. Like, for some people, that may be something they get off on, but me, that's not.
Right. So yeah, and we've talked about this. And I love it all, man. I love it all. I don't think I could just watch that, though. For hours on end. If it was like, all different kinds of matches, and as kind of do a little general. They'll do regular shows, and then all of a sudden they'll do these crazy matches. So I like to see kind of that aspect of it more so. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, but I think after one or two matches, in my head, I'm just kind of watching the same thing over and over, and it would just, there's only so much you can do with something like that. It's not. You know what I mean? Like, you can't take it anywhere else.
Yeah. I think a lot of times these guys, what they're trying to do is they're trying to outdo the next guy.
Right.
And I get in any sport, you always want to try to up the ante of some sort. But in this way, with them, that's kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
In an aspect, because you're risking your life and literally your body. You're going to do it in professional wrestling anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They kind of all are, right? Yeah. But these guys, man, they go, and it's cool, right? I get it. They're trying to put on a show, and that's their thing. And, there's a crowd for that. Just me personally, right? I couldn't just sit and watch that for 2 hours. Like, I would, I'd need a breakup in the monotony. Like, I'd have to see, just a whole match of guys falling off platforms and through platforms and getting hit with glass bulbs and tables and tacks and barbed wire and whatever else there is, and then I'd have to see regular matches, And when I say regular matches, it's like I'd still have to see a breakup, right? I'd have to see, the brawny guys, and then see the flyers, and then see, some of the more acrobatic guys. Yeah. And then let's see some of the ladies go. And let's say, I'd like to see it. I like to see it all, man, because I love all the technical aspects of it. That's I think it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So now in a lot of this, it shows some of the stuff he went through, some of the stuff as far as it went. But then there was this kid who followed him around and was a huge fan of CZW, but he was a Sick Nick Mondo fan. Like, this kid dressed like him when he would come to the shows.
Yep.
He would act like him. He would mimic him. he would do all those things, and later he became a wrestler, and he called himself
Little Mondo. Yeah.
Yeah, and now I researched a little bit just because I wanted to know a little bit more about him personally. Well, his name is Rory Gulak, and him and his brother both showed up in CZW at the same time. His brother is Drew Gulak in the WWE. He was in 205. Then he was in NXT. Now he does this stuff with Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Right now, him and Daniel Bryan have this thing going on WWE. So his brother moved on to other things. Now, Little Mondo, Rory himself, mimicked himself everything after Sick Nick, but he wasn't getting the same love, basically, as,
Yeah.
Well,
it's hard, man. You look at a guy like Sick Nick Mondo, man, and what he built for himself, right? The character he built for himself, just everything to go with it. And then when he left, right, this kid who just idolized him as much as he did said, okay, well, I want to be that. I want to do what that guy does, and he did it. He would first talk. He kind of mentioned that when the show kind of first started. Because he's walking around Japan, stuff like that. But he never, until you really find out, like this kid named himself Little Mondo, and he got in the ring, then you're like, okay, well, I think it's harder to gain respect that way. You know what I mean? Now, if he would have came in and just went, crazy and developed his own character and built up his own type of deal, right? Now, he kind of did the smart thing, right? I come in with a name that everybody kind of already knows, and I do crazy outlandish stuff, but you're still never that guy, right? You still have to make some of it your own,
Yeah. So, well, then Nick Mondo had been out of wrestling for, I think it was close to 10
years,
when this happened.
Yeah.
So he was out for a while, and he said, this guy kept sending him video clips of the stuff he was doing.
Yeah.
And after a while, he kept feeling like, man, don't send me this stuff no more. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, he's like, I can't watch it. Yeah.
You can't watch it. I feel like some of this is my fault, and if you get hurt, it's on me, a little bit. Some of that guilt from him,
right?
Realizing that he took stuff above where it was. So when he showed up to do that match out of nowhere, that big over the top cage match battle royal thing they had going on.
That was nuts, dude. God, I didn't even know. I didn't even understand what was happening. I was just like, he's gonna make an entrance sooner or later. I don't know. I don't know what's going on right now. There's just people flying through shit. And I didn't know what was happening. So it was kind of crazy.
So and the whole thing, the purpose of it is that Rory, Little Mondo, was just wanting to always impress his hero, and getting one chance to be in the same match with his hero is all he ever wanted.
Right. Yeah.
And when he finally got the chance to, he decided to retire that night. Now, from what I read, I guess he didn't retire for very long. Came back and did a few other things. But now I guess he is a professional wrestling trainer.
Yeah.
At a wrestling facility, which great for him. Moved on to something else, and he was good at And who knows? I think maybe he probably has a little more in him too. If he decided to do like his brother and move on to something else, because I still don't think he's very old. I think he's I think he was like 14 when he started wrestling.
Yeah. So I don't even think Sick Nick's that old.
Yeah. So they were pretty young when they all started doing this, and they beat their bodies up pretty good. And don't get me wrong, I have respect for you if you go out and do this stuff, and you as a performer. And for a lot of you guys, I know you feel like it's art. And in some ways, for you, if that's how you feel and it gets you where you want,
that's
I'm fine
cool
with that. I'm not condemning
Absolutely.
you. I'm just saying for myself, it's not something that I see myself getting into as much.
Right.
So
that's all, man. I got nothing but respect for those guys, because even It's like I said, I still like to watch that type of stuff. I just couldn't watch, 2-3 hours of it. It would just be kind of just monotonous for me. Um, but speaking more on, Sick Nick Mondo, I thought it was really cool the way they did the trade. Um, how he brought his his mental state of mind to life with that, explaining that it was
Exactly.
basically, it almost reminded me of like Fight Club when he had the alter ego. You remember
Yes.
Fight Club when he had the alter ego? It almost reminded me of that, and it was almost like, and he was talking about how he was fighting it, and he didn't want to think about it, and he kept trying to keep his mind off of it, and he didn't, and with everything being right, he comes back and he helps that kid out, right? I don't know. There's probably more to it than that, right? I mean, why
Yes.
would the kid retire anyway? But there's probably more to it than that. However, at the end of that deal, man, they show so many people talk about how this guy touched them. You know what I mean? Yeah, I love me, inspired me, and just so many video clips of that. Everything from a kid to an adult. This is why I do what I do. This is why I do what I do. The guy in the wheelchair. The guy who said, yeah, man, I started wrestling, I tried to do stuff like Sick Nick Mondo. Man, I broke my back. I broke my spine. I just had to quit wrestling. I just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool in a sense that, he helped that one kid out. But if he had to see all of that, if it really affects him that bad mentally, that would drive him nuts. That would drive him nuts to know how many people out there actually look at that and go, I want to be like that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That whole thing at the end was the craziest thing to me, man, because those people, you're talking about kids, man, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Because they're easily swayed. As a kid, you like a lot of stuff. It's like from the Jackass guys or skateboard stuff that people used to watch before it was popular. Like you trade these videotapes back in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember to get a watch them.
Oh, yeah.
Or DVDs.
Oh,
because
man,
that
I
stuff
couldn't
wasn't,
wait.
the internet wasn't big with it.
Yeah.
You want to see what next sick trick some guy was going to do.
Absolutely.
And everybody go out and try, and somebody breaks something.
I was all about
whatever.
that, man. We were all about
Yeah.
that, man. Yeah, absolutely. That's what the
So
life
every-
was. Yeah.
Yeah, so when people are in the same way, they want to see that next thing. Oh man, I can do that. I want to show that I'm just, and it kind of brings it to a different light. Now I think Sick Nick, he was, I liked his story. Like I said, he had great athleticism. He could do a lot of great stuff. He could have done something more, probably someplace else, if he didn't get so deep into that
That style. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He probably could have went to Japan and wrestled. You know what I mean? He's that guy. He could probably still do it if he. I think he could still do it if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he, it's just, you just. I think that maybe he doesn't, and I don't know because I don't know the guy, but never talked to him. But maybe he doesn't because if he goes back to the ring, I think maybe he feels like I have to do. If he starts doing, just basic, some sort of technical, acrobatic, whatever high flying, whatever he's doing, that it's going to lead eventually back to him doing the crazy stuff, and I think maybe that's why he doesn't do it.
That could be true.
Yeah,
that's kind of where we leave it right there. Hey guys, if you have anything you want to comment about, if you know a little bit more about this subject, or we get a lot of times we get these guys who are really in depth with CZW, and they like the death matches and the XPW and all this other over the top stuff, and they come at us like, oh, you don't know, guys. If you listen to the whole thing and you listen to what we said, we never said that we didn't respect the people or feel it's just something that we are not as much into as you are. And
that's all.
And that's just one of those things.
If you invited me to a CZW show, would I come out? Absolutely, because you invited me. I'd come and watch it. I would. I'd come and watch it. I'd come and watch the show. I would like it. All I'm saying is I couldn't do it every time, all the time. It couldn't only be that for me. There'd have to be a breakup and some stuff. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'd never come and watch it. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you guys right now. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave a comment down below. Hit that like button, guys. I'm Lee.
I'm Fayaz.
Later.
He's Lee.
He's Bob.